Hello, welcome to this video. This is all about what we do to keep ourselves fit in the second half of life and what I do in particular, which works for me and perhaps might work for you. And it's based upon the idea that we know ourselves a bit better these days. We know what works for us and what doesn't. And I'll take you through how this evolved in my life, and then I'll go into what it is I actually do to keep myself in reasonable shape. So, when I was a kid, I was absolutely besotted with sport, team games especially. I was hyper competitive. I loved any sport, I would play all of them, and I was okay at some of them. And it basically became my life until I was about 18 or 19. I really enjoyed all things to do with team games. Then, as time went by, the real world, as we all know, started impinging on everything, and it began to be a question of fitting things in. So things began to change, and frankly, sport and exercise, all of that stuff began, as it does with everybody, I think, began to take a bit of a back seat. And consequently, frankly, my physical condition went down. I got overweight and, got to the point where I couldn't go upstairs particularly fast, or all that stuff. And I knew I was not in shape, and I knew there was an issue. And so initially, I did all the stuff that everybody always does. I tried joining a gym. I joined a swimming pool and went swimming. And I found that all of these things basically just eventually became such a chore for me that I stopped them and found myself back at square one. However, over time, things have kind of altered because I've worked out a couple of things. And this is where I think it becomes a more interesting, more realistic approach to exercise, which is what I've got now. So the first thing I recognized was that it's no good putting me under some kind of obligation to do something, because the core criterion for me to do any kind of physical exercise is I have to enjoy it. I have to find it diverting, and I have to not dread it. So that's the first criterion. The second criterion is I have to be able to incorporate it in my day. I can't travel for 20 minutes, then spend 10 minutes getting changed for 40 minutes exercise, followed by a shower, followed by a drive back home. That just takes up too much of my day. And I'm not willing, frankly, to get up at 5 o'clock to do it. It's just not realistic. And I know what I'm like. I know myself reasonably well. So that's the second criterion. So bearing those two things in mind, I've basically evolved into something which I can do from home, and that basically boils down to running, jogging, whatever you want to call it. And that's what I've been doing now for about 20 years. And I want to be absolutely clear, I'm really slow. I have no competitive ability in this at all. And that's actually an advantage in this case. So here's how I currently do my exercise in inverted commas. Although that's the point of, I hate the word exercise when it's applied to the sort of thing where you go, oh, I've got to do some exercise now or else I'll get fat or I'll be unfit or I'll get diabetes or something like that. I hate exercise when it's like that. I love activity though, and I love basically pushing yourself a little bit, not too much. Anyway, so here's what I do now. The first thing I do is I set myself a few rules. Firstly, I have to enjoy the exercise. Secondly, I have to make sure that I can fit it into my day. Thirdly, the actual activity itself has to be enjoyable for me. So in order to do that, I've worked out that while I'm running, I need to be able to drift off, think my thoughts, think about my next YouTube video, something, anything, just to give me a diversion. The other thing I do when I'm actually running is I never set any kind of timer. I have my watch on, so I do know eventually what the time is that I've taken, but I'm not interested in how long the activity takes me, because I know that if I do set my watch to start and then start running, the next day I'll be thinking, it took me about 56 minutes yesterday. I'll try for 55 today. And gradually it starts becoming a competitive exercise and I just lose the enjoyment. So the other thing I do is I use a set of over-the-ear headphones like this, which fit on. They're really good. I thoroughly recommend them. These are ones by a firm called Shocks. The great thing about them is they don't go actually into your ear, so you don't get that sort of feeling that you're isolated, and it means that you're not worried that you're about to get knocked over by a car or something like that. So for me, they're really useful when you're running, and that's all I use them for. So I use those, which then opens up the whole world of podcasts and audio books and all that stuff. And I use all of those and I change them round. And I think that enables me then to accomplish my third criterion, which is I try and do about an hour, about 4 or 5 times a week. And that means in terms of total elapsed time, I can do an hour within my day on my lunch break if I need to, or I can do it after work in the summer or whatever. But it just means that I have that hour that I can dedicate, and then the whole world of physical fitness and exercise gets a tick in the box, and I can go on and do my other stuff. And it's not been a real chore to actually do it. And that I think is the absolute key. Now, what does that mean though in terms of what exercise I'm actually getting? And I'll be brutally honest here. It's not great. It's good in as much as it's good for my cardio. It keeps weight off. Does it help with things like building muscle and things like that? No, it doesn't. I have to do other stuff if I want to do that. And frankly, because I don't enjoy that bit, I don't do it nearly as much. But I know that I'm at least doing something regularly, which will hopefully keep me in good stead and keep me relatively fit. And when I look at contemporaries of mine, I think I think that's okay. I don't think I'm not the fittest person on the planet by any stretch for my age, but I'm not doing too badly. And frankly, I'll take that all day. I hate doing exercise, but I love activity. And so for me, that's the real key to this. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. It's my take on life, and it's built around things I have learned going into the second half of my life. And I'll catch up with you next time. Cheers.